Hi, everyone. Welcome in. Thanks so much for being here with us tonight on Humanities at Play. My name is Kathleen Kuo, and I am a program manager for Nevada Humanities, which is our state's council partner for the National Endowment for the Humanities. With Humanities at Play, our goal is to pair gameplay and other interactive activities with thoughtful discussions about the humanities and how they enrich our everyday lives. Today, I am super excited for our stream. I think every stream is special, but this one is extra special today because we are here to do an early celebration of Naadam. What's Naadam, you might say or ask? Well, we're going to find out in just a little bit. Today, we're joined by our guest, Kip Hutchins. Kip, how are you doing tonight?
I'm great. Thanks. How are you doing?
I'm hanging in there. We're all hanging in there. That's great. I've been wanting to have you on our program for a while, so I'm glad that you're here tonight. I think you're the perfect guest to have on. You know, I think.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. And I've known Kip for a while now. I don't know how many years, but so it's always nice when you have someone you've known and that you've just been able to go to Mongolia with, especially. So I think we have a lot of memories. Maybe some of those will come out and stream tonight. So, but for those of you who don't know Kip, I know there are some of you in chat. I'm going to read his bio for you. So Kip is a cultural anthropologist who's interested in an intersection of music and the environment. He is a visiting assistant professor in the departments of Anthropology and Environmental Studies at Oberlin College. His research focuses on the roles that non-human animals, spirits, and other beings can play in cultural heritage, particularly in Mongolia and southern Appalachia. He has been working with musicians and nomads in Mongolia since 2010, where his research has focused on a Morin-Hor, or the horsehead fiddle. And Kip, I forgot to ask, is Appalachia, is that the right way to say it?
Yes. Yeah, you nailed it.
Okay. I grew up saying the Appalachian Mountains because I'm from the Midwest. And then when I traveled, I heard, the Appalachian Mountains. And then I realized, there's more than one way to say it. So there I go.
Yeah, I'm more lenient than a lot of people are in the region, I think. I'm fine with people saying Appalachian, but if you went to my hometown, you'd get very heckled with if you said it the wrong way. I always say, if you get it wrong, I'll throw an apple at you. I'm a little bit more let people speak how they speak, but you nailed it.
Awesome. So today, what we're going to be doing on stream is we're going to be playing a game called Cradle. So for the first hour or so, Cradle is a puzzle adventure game, and this came out in 2015. And I can't believe that was almost 10 years ago, 9 years ago, came out. And it was developed by Flying Cafe for Semi-Animals, which is one of the best studio names I have ever heard of. And this is an indie game development studio that's actually based in Ukraine. And so Cradle deals with topics of transhumanism, nature, identity, and post-apocalyptic survival, in a sense. One reviewer called this game the worst good or best bad game they had played in a while, which I also think is the ultimate compliment. I think there's nothing better than that. So I'm really excited tonight to explore the world of Cradle with Kip and get his thoughts on how effective the game's portrayals of Mongolian environment and music are, and also representations of Mongolian science fiction, which I didn't realize was an interest of yours. So I love to learn more about that, whether it's during the gameplay of Cradle or during the second half of our stream, the second hour, where we get to learn more about you and your work. So as I mentioned, I'm calling tonight a little early celebration and acknowledgement of Naadam. I think technically it starts this Thursday, the 11th, and then goes into next Monday. But Kip, do you have thoughts you'd like to share or insights? I didn't explain what Naadam was before we get started.
Yeah, so this is actually, I think, an appropriate way to begin an acknowledgement of Naadam through game playing, because Naadam as a word comes from the verb nadach, which means to play. So Naadam translates generally to games, like in the way that we might call the Olympics, the Winter Olympics, the Winter Games or something like that. These are the games. And Naadam is a national celebration in Mongolia that occurs at the highest level, at the national level, once per year, but also occurs in regional levels, kind of cascading down from the province to the county to the town level. So this summer, there's actually going to be various levels of Naadams, and it's called the Games because it's characterized by the three manly games, Erin Gorwan Naadam, as they're called in Mongolian, which are wrestling, Buch Barldang, which is sometimes actually known in the United States under the Chinese neologism Shuaijiao. There's a Mongolian wrestling dojo in Boston, for example, that goes under that name, but they acknowledge that they do Buch Barldang. The second one being archery, which is, of course, Mongolia is very famous for archers, for horseback archers who can fire off a horse sitting backwards and that kind of thing. But it's very similar to Western archery, except that instead of aiming for chest or waist level targets, they're actually aiming for targets on the ground that are stacked up. So rather than aiming at the level of maybe the deer of Western style archery, you're looking at a series of targets on the ground, mimicking more like hunting for rabbit or marmot. And then finally the horse race, which actually is the one that takes the longest because horse races are broken up by different ages. And rather than being sprints like in the Kentucky Derby, these are endurance. So the horses are going to be running anywhere from 10 to as many as 20 miles. And so these races take quite a long time and are broken up in age categories over the course of several days. This is that, along with the wrestling, which takes, I think there's like 1,024 wrestlers that compete at the national level, the national Naadam. That usually takes 3 days, although the wrestlers don't go one at a time. There will be an entire group of wrestlers simultaneously wrestling the same arena nearby each other, which kind of adds some to the excitement of it, as you see a wrestler fly by another couple of guys wrestling, and they have to adapt to that. So that's kind of in the spirit of the holiday, is playing games. Those are the three main events, and they are taken very seriously as professional sports. But there are a variety of other games that are also played at this time, especially with sheep ankle bones called shagai, the astragalus. So people do sheep ankle bone archery, where they flick with their fingers an ankle bone to knock over pyramid of ankle bones a little bit further down the track. Other forms of game playing in that variety, effectively dominoes with ankle bones is really popular. And I think there's a reality kind of unfolding in Mongolia right now as esports is also taking off, where we'll probably see Naadam Counter-Strike kind of maybe work its way into Naadam.
Are you serious?
Like, I think that's not impossible, at least at the shagai level, right? Not at the national level, but guys hanging out in tents outside of the wrestling arena playing ankle bones. Those dudes are excellent counter strikers. So
Okay.
maybe in 10, 15 years, we'll have that onboarded.
Well, Kip, really, really quickly, for the age ranges, like little kids, right, ride those horses. Do you know the youngest of, what's the minimum?
I want to say it gets as low as 5. I think 5 is the youngest of national horse racer that I've heard of. And this is a kind of complicated political topic in Mongolia right now. Obviously, child jockeys are very long-standing tradition throughout a lot of Eurasia and West Asia. And there are places like Egypt, for example, that has a history of child jockeys and camel racing that recently replaced all their child jockeys with robots. So I could be wrong about that being Egypt, but it's somewhere in the camel jockey world. And so there's sort of an unfolding discourse right now within Mongolia as to whether that tradition should be upheld or not. And it's a pretty hot political topic, I would say. But the typical age ranges, I would say like most of them are 8. That would be a very common age, I would say. But as young as 5 and no older than 13.
Okay.
As far as I've seen.
I'm just imagining when people see you like robots took my job, robots took my camel riding.
Yeah, robots took my child's camel riding medals. That's definitely something that I think the discourse about it just really started right before the pandemic, and the pandemic slowed everything down, especially in Mongolia, which effectively avoided the pandemic for several years, the first couple of years especially, by shutting everything down really hard, which is kind of funny because this game is also about a pandemic and sort of Mongolia weathering it in a certain kind of way. But I'm interested to see kind of where this shakes out, because the first time I went to Mongolia in 2010, it was like was not questioned that if you were like a little kid in the countryside, you might have the makings of champion athlete in probably the maybe second most popular sport. I think wrestling's the most popular sport and of course that's all adult men. That's like a really like a man in his mid-20s type of sport to excel in.
Right. As Silver says in the chat, only the manliest of games when it, wrestling.
It is the only one that only men compete in.
There you go.
Archery is mixed gender. There's men and women compete alongside each other, but at different distances. So women have a shorter distance to fire from by about 10 kilometers. I think they fire from 65 and men fire from 75, but they do compete alongside each other. Women regularly win that highest title of the Sorharwatch. And of course, it's gender mixed in the horse racing as well, although it's all children. Wrestling is the only one that is to date men only. And the Ulsingich Naadam, the big national Naadam, is the Super Bowl for Mongolian wrestling. It's the thing everybody watches for days. It's very important. The only way to rank up in Mongolian wrestling is to win bouts in a Naadam. And there are all these other Naadams, right? Like I mentioned before, the national Naadam always takes place around July 12th. So usually 11th to 13th. But there will be a state level Naadam and a province level Naadam that also has the 3 manly games. And if you're wrestling in a province level Naadam, you can only get to a certain rank. So the ranks being Falcon, Elephant, Lion, and Titan, Auruk. You can't get to the Titan level. No matter how, you could win 1,000 bouts. You could be the strongest wrestler in all of Uf's province. But if you only compete in the Uf's provincial Naadam, you can never get that title. And they kind of go up like that. You can get the Nachan at the county level, and then you can get the Zhang at the province level, and so on and so forth. But you'll have all of these first-time wrestlers who are trying to place in their regional Naadam, so that they can go up and then compete in the national Naadam. And so it's simultaneously the Super Bowl and the NFL Combine kind of unfolding at the same time.
It's really, I really encourage people, like, look this up on YouTube if you can. Like, it really is like such a, like an ultimate spectacle of, people dressing up, of like music, of just bodies moving through space, and it's really something to behold. So if you're curious, check out Naadam in the 3 manly sports and all the things that Kip just mentioned.
Yeah, and like you said, in terms of people dressing up, like it's traditional for the archers to wear really beautiful traditional Mongolian gown called a del. Both men and women, they wear different cuts and different styles of belt. That's like the way that they do it. That is the athletic gear, is this beautiful, like traditional silk brocaded outfit. And then, of course, the wrestlers very famously wear a really tiny outfit that's just sleeves and a kind of briefs situation, and they're color coded. Usually it's red and blue, either blue sleeves and red bottoms, kind of the like classic, but there are a lot of different colors that all represent different things. Blue represents the sky, green nature, etc. And they're open fronted. This is a very like classic Naadam time folktale that the medieval princess Hutulun would only marry a man who could beat her in wrestling, and so she went in drag as a man to the wrestling competition and won. No one could beat her, and then after that point, they kind of had the. This is the mythology of where this open-fronted, sleeves-only jacket comes from. That if this happens again, there's no potential for trickery. She does eventually marry a man who cannot beat her in wrestling, but that's another piece of a folktale for another time. That's a character that has quite an epic tale attached to her. In Inner Mongolia, they have a totally different outfit where they don't wear a shirt at all, but they have these baggy kind of pants. And they have different dances and everything. It's endlessly deep topic.
It really is. We could spend actually 2 hours. We could spend like 8 hours, a whole day talking. We could spend 5 days talking about Naadam during Naadam.
Yeah, we could spend all of Naadam talking about Naadam.
All right, well, I'm gonna get the game started, I think, and then we can keep chatting there. But again, super excited to be celebrating tonight with Kip on stream. So we'll play about an hour or so. We'll find a good stopping point, take a 5-minute break, and then come back for our conversation. But again, please don't be shy about sharing any observations, comments, questions you might have for Kip during our chat. I'm excited to share this game with you all. Again, I'm going to read that comment one more time. Someone called it the worst good or best bad game they had played in a while. So let's get started. Okay.
I'm very intrigued by this game in a way. Obviously, Mongolia doesn't get a lot of representation in video games. And I was trying to think earlier, like, where have I seen it? And it's mostly medieval, right? Like Age of Empires, or Ghost of Tsushima, right? This is like the Mongols. There are these places where Mongolia is kind of implied and is also medieval-ish, but not like fully actualized.
Exactly.
One of the main characters of Fire Emblem 7, you meet her in a ger. She refers to it using the Mongolian term ger, not yurt. And so it's like, okay, this is probably a Mongolian person, but in terms of, and it's sci-fi, it's not unheard of, right? Queen Amidala,
right? Star Wars, the
Mongolian queen, with the classic Mongolian queen headdress, and things like that. You have these places where classical Mongolia kind of gets rewritten through the lens of sci-fi, but I'm interested to see one where that historical lens is not like
and so everyone,
the primary one.
Let me know how the sound level is, if you need this to be louder or quieter.
I think it's good.
Okay, so we have just awoken. So in this game, they call it a yurt, which is what I think a lot of Westerners call it, but it's really the Mongolian name for this structure is a ger, G-E-R, I guess transliterated.
Yeah, and here we are. We've got the Mongolian style roof ring up there. So, and the chimney.
I'm going to start from here. Okay, so if we just came in the doorway.
Yeah, so here we have it, right? This is designed, that lattice work, that red lattice work is collapsible. This is all designed to be able to be packed up historically on the backs of camels, although in contemporary times, more often on the bed of a Korean light truck. And here we have the bed. This is very accurate. I was like really surprised to see how accurate this bed is.
Yeah, I'm gonna start clicking on everything in a bit. I just want to do a tour. Yeah, it's tell us. This is probably a little bit less accurate, but really. You do the like kind of pan over. And it's like, here's where you make your tea, and here's where you sleep, and here's the shrine, and here's where you keep your robot lady. Right? Yeah. Okay. Let's get to that. So here's our shrine, which we'll get back to, and then, everything looks pretty traditional and normal. Yeah. And then, oh my goodness, what do we? And
that's where your lady goes. That's where your robot project goes.
Yes. immediately thrown into sci-fi and looks like a, like it's not an Excel printer, or it looks like a printer, but it's not. Yeah, Osher says, wait, do you not have a robot lady corner? No, sorry, we do not. Hey, Friday, July 24th, only a couple days away. I don't know about you, as I get older, when I see years like 2076, I'm like, yeah, it's the future, but I'm like, I'll still be alive.
But not by much. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not quite by much.
Right. Okay, July 25th, Saturday, 2076. Today is the 26th year anniversary of the Chrome catastrophe, when a consciousness emulation experiment at the Institute of Neurocopying in the city of Chrome went awry. It resulted in the first ever emission of desperotoxin. This day went down in history as the start of the Lilith epidemic, which is kind of the worldwide thing that Kip alluded to earlier.
So here we have, this is this really surprised me, but this is also where one of my bones to pick, one of my anthropology finger wags comes in. This is a dry sink, right?
Yes.
This is a common feature of many Mongolian homes. The idea is that you would put a ladle of water at the top, and then that's a little bucket, and you turn the spigot, water comes out. That's how you brush your teeth in the morning and wash your face. In the Gobi, these are like, a house that has this is just a real lifesaver, because you're gonna have sand all in your face and in your eyes all the time. Mm-hmm. But there's something they want you to do with this that when we'll come back around to it. I'm gonna do a little. Okay, we'll do a little bit of clicking around and come back to this. All right, sounds good. Let me just. But the emulation of the painting style right down to the way that it weathers in particular ways, that different pigments of paints weather differently. This is very accurate. This is a good. This is a desert style home furnishing. Footprint of brown hair. Here we have classical Mongolian on all these condiments. Yeah. And I'm not like super literate in classical Mongolian, but they have Dawis, which is salt. They've got Shikir, Sakar in the classical, Chikur in contemporary Mongolian for sugar. So I'm like pretty impressed. I'm impressed they got this. This is not something that a lot of people are literate in outside of Mongolia. Even in Mongolia, this is a difficult script that not everybody. Because usually it's Cyrillic reads. For people who don't know. I don't know if that's the right word. Like, when you see Mongolian, it's usually in, if you're familiar with like Russian Cyrillic, that's kind of what you'll see. And this is the classical language, that the up and down that Kip is talking about. What is this one? Do you know? Let's see. Not to put you on the spot. It's okay if you don't know. Maybe it's Aras is the first word, and then Bolus. We can wait for it. If we have any classical Mongolists in the chat and they join us, they can just. Oh, wait. No, that's not it. That's not a translation. I was going to say, that's it. But then I was like, no. First narrow copy. Writers at Lake Hovskull, which is a real place. Again, super impressed by the level of detail. And again, I love how we're just like, there's totally a mission, but I'm not getting there. I just want to explore. I'm the kind of gamer where like, they'll tell me what to do, and then I'll just like not do it and just like kind of like go around the environment, like clicking on everything. So we're doing that today. Stuffed peppers. Well, this word I do recognize, Tinju, for peppers. Yes. The famous music band presents their new album, Renew Your Flavor. The concert is timed to the anniversary of the successful modification of the empathy gene. All proceeds will be remitted to Project Transhuman Research Fund, August 17th, 2043. Okay, so like in 19 years, I'll see you in Ulaanbaatar at the Central Palace of Culture at 7 o'clock. And noting, too, this is the, I guess, I don't know what you would call this spelling. Yeah, it's sort of like the anglicized, Russianized spelling. Right. That is very pervasive to this day, despite the fact that it leads you to read it in a way that's less Englishy than if you just wrote it in the Mongolian style.
Yes.
And then, okay, here we have our three, our first artifact of the three manly games. This hat, that's the wrestling hat. That golden disc on there, that would traditionally depict either a falcon, an elephant, a lion, or whatever your title is. There's an extra level of titles that's very hard to get to for people who have been wrestling for a long time, including Garudas and other kinds of things like that. But that's the hat you take off when you go wrestle, and when you win a bout, your coach, your Zasul, puts it back on your head as part of the kind of ritual dance that the wrestling takes.
Yes. And we have a question in chat. Sorry, really quickly. Welcome in, Bunny. They say, do you have a favorite spice that is used in Mongolian dishes?
Well, Mongolian dishes are really, Mongolian food is interesting. There's a similar ethic to food to kind of in Japanese cuisine, where the idea is that the flavors of the thing that you're eating, which is going to be meat or dairy by and large in Mongolia, should be accentuated and should carry the dish. And Mongolia obviously is a place where you have totally free range livestock, like this like really kind of particular meat flavor that's hard to replicate in the West. So it's typically very lightly seasoned. Now, something that people do is before slaughtering an animal, sometimes they'll take them to particular fields, and this is also true of milking, actually, particular fields of wild, especially garlic or alliums, some other kind of onion relative, mustard greens, these kind of really flavorful wild forageables, and they'll actually take, for example, a horse to eat this before milking it, so that it kind of gives the flavor of that to the milk and it ferments in a certain way. And with sheep too, like you'll take a sheep to a grove of wild garlic, and then traditionally you would eat the sheep in two days. That you would have a meat day and an organs day, and the organs will then taste like wild garlic or mustard, things like that. Me personally, what I like from Mongolian cooking in that regard is there's a wild plant that I believe is called Allium polyrhizome in its kind of scientific interpolation. In Mongolian, it's called tan, which is a little pink white flower, and you can tell like if it's more white, I'm trying to remember which direction it goes. If it's more white, I think you can use it as a garnish on food, and that's like got a really smooth, mellow, oniony, green, wild, like almost rampy kind of flavor. And I think if it's more pink, then you feed it to livestock, and it gives, like, for example, yogurt, this really gives it kind of body, which when you're in the summer in the Gobi and you're mostly getting your hydration from yogurt or fermented horse milk, a little bit of body goes a long way in terms of like keeping it enjoyable or feasible to go without water in that way for.
I'll totally 100% agree with you about how when wild garlic permeates the meat, I think some of the best meat I've ever had came from the Gobi Desert, where, it was prepared in that fashion, where you put hot rocks and then you bury it underground, and then. So I guess natural spice is the best spice.
Yeah. And there's just like this, like a lot of care that goes into the preparation of an animal to be consumed in a way.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know what I just did. I clicked on this thing and it's spinning. Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
A really brief dream of another city. That it's just like a different way of thinking about preparing food. There's a different way of thinking about preparing meat, right? That you're involved in the life of this animal, that there's some kind of reciprocity that's not just between the herder and the animal at that kind of like feeding level, but that there's a little bit of forethought.
I guess I'm not supposed to sit on the bed. I was thinking I could just like sit on it and keep going.
Well, that's, in Mongolian tradition, you're not allowed to sit on the bed unless you are elderly or sick.
There we go. Although I am kind of a little bit.
I never understood that folk, or maybe it's lie down. You're not allowed to lie down on the bed to not sleep unless
did a
you're
bad
sick
thing.
or elderly.
Okay, so I will not do that again. Instead, we'll just stare at this
magazine.
Top secret sky rings. It looks like a tabloid almost, but maybe it's not. I don't know. And Bunny says, "Well, that's crazy. I'm always down for a ramp or wild garlic. Thanks for that." Yeah, of course. Let us know if you have any other questions.
They have so many there, and there's so many kinds of like wild garlic, wild onion, wild mustard. It's like I have this book that's just goby plants, like a naturalist's guide, just goby, not even the other 5 or whatever biomes that are there. And goby, like, as you know, really sparse landscape for greens, and there's just, I mean, a whole chapter of different kinds of onions and garlics. There's another one. There's one called humul, which is like kind of like a chive that's really popular in eastern Mongolia, where you forage is forageable. You just get it off the side of the road. It grows really well on like horse paths and things like that, in these big bushels, and then you pickle it in just like really, really salty brine. And that's like a kind of a condiment that's really popular in eastern Mongolia, in the steppe, in the big like grasslandy parts. And it's just really like, have you ever been at a hot pot restaurant that has the like pickled chives sauce? Tastes kind of like that. That's really good too. And that you just kind of can put on anything. People eat it on borsuk. It's really on basically fried bread kind of balls.
I like that fried bread is like a universal thing. And thanks, Silver. Silver says Kathleen wants to play Sleeping the game. I know, in real life and in this game. Okay, so I clicked on this. This is really fascinating. Cisterns with biological waste in the suburbs of Erdenet, which is also a real city. Is it the second largest city now in Mongolia?
It's the second city, yes.
It's a mining city too.
City of industry. Ukrainian President Zelensky studied in Erdenet, actually.
Oh, I didn't.
When he was studying abroad in Mongolia, that was where he was.
Okay, this is from Kenya, so I wonder if we have like a traveler lived here. Little ball. Woman knitting. Making sure she's knitting and not crocheting, which is one of my big pet peeves. Handmade flag, signed Good Hunting. The happy newlyweds from your parents with love.
It's got the classic Ulzi knot on there. Fate unbroken.
Grandpa Bachin has arrived. Let's make goulash. Huh. It says a child and sheep. I wonder if they took real photos, right? Like, these look like real photos, and then they just...
and above the altar too, there's some family photos where I'm like, is this somebody's real family?
Yeah, right?
It looks very legitimate. It looks very legit.
We have so many questions.
Here they are. Oofs Lake. Yep. Oofs Lake is a saltwater lake. That's very, very salty. They get pink Himalayan style pink salt from it. Really good tea with the salt from Oofs Lake. Really tasty salt.
Turning with bounty. A cedar forest. Oh, yeah. Happy grandmother and grandson. Well, so 2039. What is that? 15 years from now. Nergui.
Nidagui, the nameless.
Yes. Oxygen TV set.
Oh, that reminds me too. So the main character's name Enbish, which means not this one.
Yes.
Nidagui is also not an uncommon Mongolian name, means nameless. There's an old kind of folklore belief, super old, that back in the day people would say that if a malicious spirit came in the nighttime and asked you for your child's name, then you wouldn't be able to lie because you'd be asleep and be compelled to tell the truth. And because children are closer to the other world, having just come out of it, then they would take the child. So there was a historical practice if a child was sickly, especially a lot, to change the child's name to something like, not this one, Enbish, not that one, Terebish, Hungui, this is not a person, Nidagui, nameless one, or my favorite, Mohai, which means ugly. And so that then the spirit would ask, okay, what's the child's name? And you would say, the ugly one. And then the spirit would say, oh, I don't want an ugly child, and it would leave. And that's pervaded in this kind of canon of Mongolian taboo names that still exist to this day, in the form of, like, you know, you might be named after your great grandfather or something. It's a little bit it's something that, like, Mongolian authors use as a narrative device a lot of times, because you can get away with naming your main character not this one, and there's a lot that you can do with that mechanically that's pretty difficult to translate in an elegant way. And ironically, I think they're kind of picking up on that with this. This is one of those other things where I'm like, how did you guys get this right, or am I reading too much into this? You play an amnesiac character whose name is not this one.
Have you met many uglies in your Mongolian travels? How do they feel about their name? I'm curious, like, to be named that, you know? Well, because it's like culturally, like, it's okay, but just to, you know, it's like naming your child, you know, like Patience or, you know, I
actually know more people whose dads' names were ugly.
Okay.
And so obviously in Mongolian, like, you say father's first name and then possessive and then your first name, and that's how Mongolian names work. So that can be really tricky. Like, I have a close friend who I work with often, whose dad's name is Ugly, and so, and his first name is one of the most common first names in Mongolia. 10,000 boys were born the year that he was born with that same name.
Okay.
And so I would, like, be talking to people and be like, hey, do you know so and so? And they would say, which so and so? I know 10 of these so and so's. And I would say, and I would be like, don't make me say it. Don't make me say it. You know, they'd be like, well, what's his last name? And I would say, Ugly so and so.
Yeah.
And then eventually I found other ways of saying, like, you know, he works here, or like his sister does that. And then that was a little bit more elegant. But there was one person that after many years of referring in this way to our third friend, I was like, that's his dad's name. That is his name. And he was like, oh, right, okay. I just thought you were calling him Ugly all along, and I just went with it. Because it's also, like, my nickname in the Gobi is Undabudung, which means the tall and the fat. So I think he was just kind of going with it, like, yeah, sure, you think he's ugly, so you call him Ugly. It's not that big a deal. But that was like 10 years that guy thought that I was just calling this other guy Ugly for no reason.
Right. But names are important. We've had this conversation before in our program just about the importance of names and naming, and it's one of my favorite topics. So yeah, here's Enbish, and then some instructions. So I like this. I got fat and now I smell bad. Turn off your nose and don't look at me. I didn't say goodbye to Ongats. I waited for him all day, but he didn't return. Please feed him and change him lest he gets sick. Follow this recipe. Okay, so this is, I think, the first goal. So after we finish exploring our ger, we will do this part, and then we'll find out what manner of creature Ongats is. Toss the body in the river. I won't be coming back. A lot of mysteries. Okay, so we were here. Okay, we're gonna... Writing in Old Mongolian. Yeah, it's too far away for us to really look at. Drugs. Bunny says that's hilarious. Yeah, are you talking about the story that Kip just told? When you go to Mongolia, you come back with a million stories, so we're gonna get to
there's all kinds of...
Oh, can't open. This chest has been shut for many... I'm so impressed by all the weathering, like the colors.
The trunks, yeah.
It's so good.
This is so real, and the fact that they're just these locked up trunks that haven't been opened in decades is also really real.
And now we get to these family photos of possibly real people who we don't know.
These look really legit. Yeah, these look like real people. So the north side of the ger, or the yurt, is the venerated side. It's always the back side because the wind comes off of the north if you're in Mongolia, or if you're in the Altai, it kind of comes off the northwest. So Mongolian nomadic tents always face south or southeast if you're, mostly south. the back end, then the north end, is this venerated space. Historically, hundreds of years ago, before Tibetan Buddhism even came in, this would be the place where you would put your family's shamanic protective spirit idol or icon. And some people still do that. There's still people who practice shamanism and have that. In a Buddhist household, as you see here, this is where the Buddha would go, and icons of various other spirits. Mongolian Buddhism, typically most Mongolian Buddhists are yellow hat Gelugpa Buddhists, like Dalai Lama kind of style of Buddhism. And then there's some red hat Buddhists, but they all practice a kind of Tibetan Buddhism. So other deities in the Buddhist canon are really important, and they'll be represented here. But this is also where your family photos will go. The classic family standing in front of the Sukhbar statue in Ulaanbaatar that a lot of people have. Here we have...
we had the great-grandma.
We've got a guy in the traditional Kazakh hat with golden eagle.
I'll click on him. Good hunt. Good.
And I'm imagining he might be Uncle Byard too.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Gumbatter, it's a good name.
That's a classic name. Steel hero.
And then, let's see, you see these people. Zambul and Renee again. A woman with a child, Zambul, 2 years. Okay, so this is kind of funny to me where, it says, it's spelled Ulaanbaatar, Bator here, and then here, right? It's the...
Right, you
Cyrillic.
can see Ulaanbaatar written in there, yeah.
And then Choibalsan, also a real place. Tibetan amulet.
And yeah, like this is you got your rosary beads there, there's a bell, there's incense in the drawer. This is very, you've got your Tibetan Book of the Dead, and a book of Mongolian fables.
Should I read this whole thing? Okay, we're just gonna scroll down. Okay, so yeah, this is I'm not gonna read all of it, but wow, just whoever created this game, well, we know who created this game. They did a great job, the studio.
Then we've got the Flint and Tinder tobacco set here, the little Flint and Tinder keychain, and the long pipe.
Yeah.
This is all very real. This is like modeled after somebody's real house.
Yes, minus the lady who we're about to get to.
Yeah, that's true. And also, if there was a robot zone, that would also be, at least on the northern side of the Gera somewhere, like in the northeast, like where a TV or a computer would go, like something that has the capacity to represent. The thing about the altar, right, is that it has the capacity to represent. That's why it's pictures of, ancestors and deities, and things like that, or if you have a painting of a holy mountain, that might go there, because the idea is that this is a zone that has the power, that has a mimetic kind of power, right? Through representation, it brings these things to bear and honors them. So if you had something representational like a transhuman robot, that would be going on the north side. That's the little, I'm gonna knit that pic. That's my cultural consultant. Oh, and then here, okay, we have a Danshik Naadam mask.
Oh,
so
I can't click on it. Yeah.
Originally, Naadam was simultaneously religious and secular. Mongolia today actually has a lunar solar calendar, both a lunar and a solar calendar, where there's a split between holidays that you spend with your family and religious holidays. My cat's getting in this.
Oh, we love
He's
cats.
putting his tail up here. I would pick him up, but he really doesn't. I would show him he doesn't like to get picked up, but he might put his big face in there. But so this lunar calendar is for things like Mongolian Lunar New Year's, which is a family holiday. You spend it with your family, and it has a lot of spiritual and cultural traditions attached to it. It's not expressly religious. but other religious things are on that as well. And then you have the secular calendar, the solar calendar, where they also celebrate January 1st, New Year's, and you spend that with your coworkers. Currently, Naadam is a secular holiday. It's considered a political holiday. It commemorates the 1921 revolution that effectively created Mongolia as an independent socialist state and no longer a tributary of the Qing Empire, and not formally absorbed into any of the follow-ups to the Qing Empire. So it's very secular in that way. There's obviously some religious stuff to it. But throughout the socialist period, when open practice of religion was banned following the Soviet model, there was the banning of a different kind of Naadam, or an earlier kind of Naadam, or certain parts of the Naadam, the Danshig Naadam, where people would do the Tom dance, which is it's actually traditionally Red Hat Buddhist, Nyingma Buddhist, where carvers make these enormous, beautiful, hand-carved masks of wrathful deities and folklore monsters and heroes, and do a kind of a play through this ritual dance. It's very, very religious, and so it was banned from open practice throughout the entire 20th century, and then only reinstated in 2015 in a public way and in a nationally. They were doing them in secret at various monasteries. But this mask, this is a wrathful deity mask. So this would be the kind of mask that a Tom dancer would wear. Only in real life, it would be enormous, right? It would be much larger than that.
With a big spider web over it. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's actually a carver in, I want to say, Arlington, Virginia, whose name is Natsuk, I think, who carves those masks in the United States.
Oh, it's super cool. Just going through little stuff.
Yeah, let me make sure I've got the name right so that I name drop the right guy.
Okay.
I think it's Ganborov Natsuk, but I could be wrong.
And Silver, I agree. In chat, they write, the tail is the star of the show. Kip's cat, probably.
Yeah, his name is Natsuk. Yeah. Ganhuig Natsuk.
We got Mystery Robot Lady. And then, okay, this is...
Yeah, she's really going through it, this robot.
Yeah. Our genometer is broken. It lied to us. There is nothing special about those flowers. All were ugly. All we did was waste perfectly good covers. Huh. See that? I like when worlds just drop you in. You're like, I don't know what this word means or what any of this means, and you find out later. And then again, it's still like the fact that we're like in this world, like it's this clashes this like very traditional Mongolian home and photos, and then bam, robot lady and like empathy meters, and it's just this is. I have so many questions. Oh, I didn't mean to pick this up. It's mine now.
And they give you just as little like kind of. I like they kind of drop you in both ways. Like they give you just as little information on the Mongolian things as they do on the like world specific sci-fi elements.
Yeah. Okay, where is this red pot? Is it? No.
I think it's in the cupboard. Like one? Two things to the right of that. There's a cupboard that I think has some.
There we go.
Yeah, there you go. That's a togo. That's a traditional Mongolian style pot. Big giant togo. This would be for making milk tea and also for preparing food. I've eaten and drank out of many of those. And so we have the traditional style of stove. That chimney that goes through the roof ring wasn't added until the 1920s. Until that point, there was just an open stove in the middle of the house. And so, people had like if you had asthma or something like that, that was a rough deal. And so they added that in the 20s so that the smoke would be kind of funneled up. In the 13th century, it would just be an open like wood fire. in the middle, or dried cow dung, which burns quite well, burns green, which is to say it makes a green flame, and it is odorless.
I have to, just throw that cup in there. Wait, can I just hold this up? Nope. Okay, I can do this. Is it filling up? I can't tell if it's filling up.
I don't know. I did this earlier, and I had to get one of the other kinds of cups, like the little cup, and I just clicked on the thing while I had it in my hand. So you go and you click on the faucet.
There we go.
There you go. And see, okay, here's my nit to pick.
Okay.
You would never, ever fill up a, like, drinking cup or food water cup from the brushing your teeth dry sink.
Okay.
It's, like, gross. There should be a big oil drum, like a big tank of water just outside the gare, and I looked all over for it. It's not there. I even went all the way down to the river to fill up the cup, and my cup then just sort of, like, clipped through my hand into, like, just like flew away into outer space. So I was like so up to that point, things have been so accurate that I just immediately went to like Mongolia brain and was like, okay, I'm gonna get the water the right way, because I just was like, there's no way you get it out of there. That's gross. That's for brushing your teeth and washing your face. If there's any leftover at all, then you wash your face twice.
Okay, so I'm sorry, on gods, that we use this gross sink for your water.
And you would think, if you look to the left, right, you would think maybe that tub, that blue tub, is a tub of water. It's not. If you click on it, if you click on the word,
oops,
hodonk, that is the like yeast. That's the ferment mother for a fermented horse milk stock. Hodonk means wealth, but it comes from an older word, and it still means this. It has a contemporaneous second meaning of that germ that you add to ferment the milk, the original kind of the mother. And so the water from there, that is yeast. That is a milky yeast in there.
Okay, I'm gonna add some fruits by the lake, add dried root, grind it, add salt, return the salt, cook it. Okay, we're about to go outside. we are ready to leave our gare. Goodbye.
Out into the
sink.
steppe.
Look at this!
And here we are.
Oh my goodness. We are in Mongolia.
Is very real. There is, on top of the gare there's this kind of like white stuff on a drying pane. That is it's called Oberlin. That's real. That is how you prepare it. Mongolia is extremely dry, so you just put it on your roof. It dries out. You kind of make these sort of yogurt patties and then dry them out, and they can be sweet or they can be sour. They can be soft. They can be really hard, extremely hard. But that's very real. That's very real. A real Mongolian household in the countryside, a nomad household, would have a couple of things of audible drying, because people eat it throughout the day. Traditionally, nomads only eat supper in terms of meals. They wouldn't traditionally have like a breakfast or a lunch, just one big supper. And throughout the day, if you're hanging out with your horses or whatever, you need something to kind of snack on to keep yourself going. And it's usually adul. And sometimes it's borsuk, which we mentioned earlier, which is kind of little fried bread sort of donuts, or dried meat called borts.
In chat, Silver says, a whole new world outside of the gare, and you spelled it right. Good for you. Ostrich says, it's incredible how much accurate things are in this game. It really is, right? Because, like, I know, I apologize, you just have to take, like, my word / Kip's word for it, but, like, this color, like, this is maybe like minus the trees a little bit, some of the the flora. This is the color of like the Gobi Desert.
Yeah, like when I played this earlier and I walked out for the first time, I was like, oh, it's Toke Province. Like, I've been here. It's it's a little bit treeier than a normal central or south central Mongolia province would be. But
I'm looking for your cup that you tried to.
It's gone. It's like.
All right, here's the fruits. Okay. Gotta find something to knock them down with. Got my... Let me pick this up. Oh, I didn't throw it. Is there like a strategy?
Yeah, I think you gotta right click to throw.
Oh, I gotta right click? Okay, I was just regular clicking.
And this is also not super accurate. I don't know that there's like a lot of flowering tree or fruiting trees throughout South or Central Mongolia. This would be all on the ground. There's fruiting bushes, especially sea buckthorn, which produces this bright orange, like reddy orange kind of, actually similar to that color, but a little bit more orange. Berry that's really sour. They make, and the Gobi people make a wine with it that's really high alcohol. Kind of tastes like if you could make a port with sour cherries, but it's got a lot of vitamin C. It's an acquired taste, but people also drink it in the form of juice. It's kind of like you can make a concentrate out of it, and it's very popular in Mongolia. There's this company called Shar Doctor, which means yellow doctor. They kind of grind it into this yellow paste, and you put it with a little bit of fizzy water. That's pretty good. Nice little sour berry aid. That would be probably what you would be looking for if this was accurate to life. Although I'm not sure what part of Mongolia this is supposed to be in. I think it's Eastern Mongolia because, as far as I can tell, there are a lot of references to Choibalsan, which is a city in Eastern Mongolia in Dornod province. And there's some references to Western Mongolia as well, the uncle and aunt clearly being Kazakh. The westernmost province of Mongolia is a Kazakh semi-autonomous province called Bainulgi. It's Kazakh majority. The kind of eagle hunting elements of this are really Kazakh coded as well. And, you know, historically, Mongolian people practice exogamy. So, yeah, something edible with an indistinct taste. That's more or less. That's before they add the sugar and everything. It's a little bit just sort of white taste.
You know, I kind of miss this kind of cheese, but I don't miss like the very, very hard one, the one that will like break your teeth. Like for people who have dogs, if you've ever seen those like Himalayan like yak cheese chews, like the really, really hard ones, like that cheese can get really hard.
I love those. In the countryside, they call those herders toothpaste because if you chew on it all day, it scrapes the plaque off your teeth.
That's
and
good.
it's like rocks. You could crack your tooth biting into it. I love those. I wish I had some right now. It's like a jawbreaker, but sour and dairy.
I like that this is beauty in English upside down. That's great. With a mysterious hole. Okay, I'm gonna grab one of you. Okay, let's get back. Alright, so just gonna double check. Add the fruits, add the root, got the root, add salt. Okay, so there's my root. I have a knife. Saw a knife.
We have a little clue about who or what onguts will be. Onguts means vessel. In the kind of, if you were to translate it in a really arch way or in a really like old-timey way, it's more commonly used for boats and airplane as a vessel that goes originally over water. We get the term Dathlain onguts for sea vessel, sea boat.
I apologize, I cut this on the ground. It fell off the table.
Yeah, this is a classic like mist problem where I kept like putting things on the ground to be able to manipulate them, but then that's like, I mean, it's Onguts has to deal with it.
Okay.
Onguts' problem now.
Oh, yeah. Let us know in the chat what you think Onguts is, based on what Kip told you. I just want to cut this on a table like a normal person.
But like, yeah, in contemporary Mongolia, if you were to say the word Onguts, just without context and without the word Dalai meaning sea, people would understand you to mean airplane.
Oh.
Like,
I dropped my knife.
Chinggis-san Ongutsunibol, place where airplanes land, aka the airport.
Okay, I apologize. I couldn't do it on the table. All right, so then we gotta grind up this fruit. There you go. Ooh, look at these. I didn't click on these earlier. It smells like vinegar. Dark, murky liquid. Yeah, it looks like some like Chinese wine and oil. Take you. Oh. Oh no. Oh no.
And there's our mortar there.
Okay, put it on the table. I'll try. Okay.
Oops.
It just doesn't want me to put it on the table, I guess. No. Okay, maybe if I crouch. There we go.
Yeah, the table collision, and the this is like where you start to see those like best worst game, worst best game things. It's like I can't use the table,
Which is the floor action. There you go.
Yeah, so like, you know, so far so good. This is the kind of thing like that would go on in a Mongolian home. You get the big giant tobo, the big giant kind of dual-handled wok. Here we need to find our salt, and so if the lettering is correct, then salt will be the second one from the left. You've got chinju all the way on the left, which is
Pepper.
pepper, is paprika basically, is dried crushed red pepper, and then that's dabas, salt.
Welcome in, Tulip. And okay, so Tulip says the hardest task, setting things down, right? Bunny says the hitbox on the table is crazy. It's overpowered. I know, I was trying so hard. I was like, whatever Ongot says, I'm gonna try and be a little bit hygienic here. Nope.
Yeah, when I was playing this earlier, I showed my wife, who also is an anthropologist who works in Mongolia, just to be like, look how Mongolian this is. And she was like, why is there all this furniture on the floor and why is everything knocked over? I was like, oh, I was trying to solve puzzles.
Why can't I? Oh, wait, I hear a sound. I heard a thing. Oh my goodness.
And here we go.
What could this be, or who could this be? Welcome in to Aaron. Sabata Ertz says Sempatanu Sakanahare. Thank you. Hello, happy Ongots. I made your fruit and ginger stew.
And that's a good point. Like, Naadam does have a special greeting, which is play well, effectively. Like, literal translation would be play well, or have a nice Naadam. Here we go.
Oh, so beautiful.
This is our best friend, Airplane.
Hello, Airplane. Hello, Ongots.
Now, eagle hunting is really interesting. Actually, there's a lot that do it. Typically, eagle hunters, this is something that's more widely practiced in the Kazakh community in Western Mongolia, although half Mongolians also practice it as well. Typically, eagle hunters will only use female golden eagles, and they only use them in the range right after they become adults, and then for like a couple years before they typically would start breeding. And once that happens, they usually let them go. They usually let the eagles go, and then they live out their whole like breeding lives. Here are eagles slightly robotic.
Yeah.
He's got an engine and a big hole, which is not only transhuman, but it's trans more than human, right? This is a trans avian, I guess.
Transavian.
Story here.
I love that.
They actually cheetahs are also very trainable, and in the 13th century, Mongolian nobility would train eagles and cheetahs the same way, using the same techniques. That's apparently entirely translatable, and there's old paintings that depict Mongolian nobility throughout, the 13th to 16th centuries, with cheetahs on the backs of their horses, and you send them off to go get the rabbit. Pretty wild day for the hunter.
I was trying to get ongots through the hole in the shirt, which I don't think it'll fit. I appreciate the suggestion, Tulip. Tulip writes, that's the same shape as the one in the shirt, but yeah, we can't interact with the shirt, unfortunately. But Kip pointed out that we did see a thing earlier.
Yeah, so in our 3 mainly games spot, underneath our wrestling hat and our coats, we have what looks a little bit like a small horse harness. So when I first saw this, I thought, oh, this is the other thing. This is the other of the 3 mainly games. But upon closer inspection, this is our dudes. This is our eagle's change of clothes.
I just love this so much. There's so many little details, like, again, this is a little small indie development studio in Ukraine that made this game, and I just wonder, like, who in Mongolia consulted on this? Like, how long did they spend in Mongolia? Why did they want to make this here?
Yeah. That's the why question is really interesting to me. Like, because this is a representation of Mongolia that I don't think I've never seen, like, a really mundane Mongolia in the way of, like, you spend the first hour or so of the game, like, cooking a meal in a togo in really, like, in a pretty large but still modest herder's tent that has all this, like, personal kind of ephemera in it, pictures of grandparents and things like that. There's, like, a folk record hanging on the wall around somewhere that's like,
let's see if we can find oh wait, our little some music.
Yeah, we have this little radio.
And turn it up for people. We can do 4. It's not too loud.
And yeah, it's interesting. Like, what does Mongolia represent for the people who want to represent it is a big question that I'm interested in. There was a whole genre in the 1950s in the Soviet Union of indigenous Siberia science fiction, because their version of the, like, noble savage myth that like, obviously in the United States was also very popular in the 1950s, but their version of it in the Soviet Union included this idea that, like, indigenous North Asian people would be the ones who could communicate, that they were so in tune with the Earth that they would be in tune with other planets too, so that if extraterrestrials landed on Earth, they would be the ones who could communicate with them the best. And so we have this huge genre of, like, pulp literature in 1950s Soviet Union of indigenous North Asian people, Tunguts, Ewens, Mongolians, Sakha, all these other groups living in Siberia, having first contact with extraterrestrials. And I think that there's, like, that kind of understanding of North Asian indigeneity is obviously comes from the kind of settler colonial lens, but it's a different one than the lens or that the United States uses to imagine Mongolia. And so there is this kind of a tension between these two imaginaries, and, like, what this does for the people producing it, I find really interesting, just because there's so few. I mean, there's, like, I don't know, if I was being really generous, like 10 games that have Mongolia represented in it at all. And if we take out the medieval stuff, Age of Empires and stuff like that, and we take out the
Civ
medieval
1 through 6, that's 6 games right there.
And then we also take out things like Warhammer 40K, which is science fiction, but it's still medieval, right? There's still the Mongol Empire. That leaves us with, like, this game, and, like, that might be it. Like,
yeah,
maybe pathologic has a similar kind of thing of like it's in the steppe. There is throat singing, but it's not in Mongolia. You don't play a Mongolian person. I'm really interested. I'm curious.
I know. I'm really pleased that this exists, and also thank you so much for the follow, Larkins. I really appreciate it. We always like when people follow us and appreciate new followers. Okay, so really quickly, I'm going to catch you up on chat, Kip, because I know you can't see chat.
Oh, yeah.
So Bad Earth says, I had a picture with a golden eagle that caught my partner's attention on Tinder. Best catch an eagle's ever made. Oh my goodness. Really? Is that true? I love that.
Like, fish is all played out, right? Eagle is the new animal to hold in your Tinder pictures.
Yeah.
And in Mongolia, there are a bunch of these. There are a bunch of guys who have their eagles. They're very docile. Reindeer as well, especially if you go in the winter. You can always get a picture with an eagle or a reindeer. And their job is to catch. They're catchers.
It worked. Okay, yeah, she writes, yes, I think I sent the first message because of that eagle pic. So amazing. Tulip says, the hole in the bird's chest is similar to the hole in the shirt. Makes me wonder if the player is the same with a hole there or something. Yeah, I wish I could see us. Maybe later on we can, or maybe that robot lady can tell us more once we get to her. And congrats to Ear says for the crowd. We are engaged now. So truly, eagles have their magical creatures.
That's kind of like anthropology, right? Obviously has the word anthro in it. It's a human kind of centric idea. And when I started doing work with animals, it was not popular to do work with animals in anthropology. It was really like, not exactly expressly forbidden, but heavily frowned upon. But then, you think about the way that people engage with things, and obviously, like, animals play a big role. And something like a companion animal, like a golden eagle that is trained to hunt, that's semi-domestic. Actually, a lot of eagle hunters report. This is actually something I read in a memoir of an eagle hunter a time ago. But a lot of eagle hunters report because you have to let it go into the wild, and once it's old enough to reproduce so that it can live its normal life as an eagle. But a lot of hunters report that when the eagles get older, they usually come back and they just sort of hang around because this is one of the places where they feel safe. They no longer have that kind of drive to reproduce. And this is part of that diffuse reciprocity of the steppe, that there are animals like livestock that directly depend on you, that you have this interrelated life with. But there are these other animals that are semi-domesticated that are really important socially, that help people bond. Even in cases like this, like the eagle landing gives some emotional stakes to the story that we didn't have before, because we didn't have a bad eagle friend.
I think everyone loves seeing that eagle come down. Before it's like, yeah, okay, it's cool to explore the Gairn. Okay, yeah, there's a robot lady and there's a mystery, but seeing the eagle swoop down, there's definitely something magical there.
It's tight.
I'm gonna read this really quickly because I think there's a little. Speaking of our eagle friend, he or she or it is mentioned here. So I've got a journal now. Thanks. And then, Kip, does this mean something? Would you say like Taba? I mean, they probably want to say like Tabaha, the way it's spelled out, but I would say like Taba.
Yeah, I was wondering about this. So it's clearly a character's name, and it was not a normal Mongolian name for sure. Would be very unusual, and so I was trying to decide like what name this could be, or is this character not meant to be Mongolian? I guess later on, that's like one of my big questions. Like, who is this Tabaha?
So we'll find out.
Or is this like it would not be an unusual medieval Mongolian name in construction. So there's always the possibility as well that they kind of overshot the mark and picked a secret history name, his name from the secret history of the Mongols. But those are all different options. But there are also clearly several Kazakh characters. So there's a possibility that we have a character who has a name from another yet another language.
Okay, so my name is Enbish, which we talked about earlier, so like not this one. I've always lived here because I can't go anywhere else. Grandpa Botchin says lots of people used to live around here, but they all died when the dome blew up. The area has been deserted ever since, aside from myself, Botchin, and Ongots, our eagle friend. Ongots has got very powerful claws. He obeyed my father and helped him hunt hares. I don't remember my parents. They died in the explosion as well. Oh no. When the wind picks up, it gets pretty chilly. You can find refuge from it, but not for long. You can't last long without light. That's why I crafted this transparent layered vest, like in that program about greenhouses. It keeps Ongots warm during the day, and when a night's chill arrives, I put him into another warm vest. That is so sweet! I collect and digitize flowers. I look for the prettiest ones and make phytocopies of them. Tabaha then takes them into town and sells them. The earnings keep him afloat while Grandpa and I buy cheese. Why would you buy cheese when you're making cheese on your roof? No. Just saying that. We got a new genometer. It measures everything: flowers, insects, people. It clocked Botchin at 47 and a tree by the gate at 24. Even a stool got measured, though that took a little longer. But when aimed at Ongots or myself, it still shows the same old error. Grandpa says it's all providence. Maybe he's right. Interesting. So we and the eagle, assuming, I don't know if myself is us or someone else, not measuring. I have this dream sometimes. I'm in a strange city. The day is waning. Folks are walking in distance. There's somebody beside me, but I don't see who. The dream is fleeting, always leaving me with strange sensation, like I'm supposed to pass something to somebody, but I can never remember what or to whom. I feel some kind of mix of anxiety and chagrin, and it makes me want to go there, to that town. Grandpa Botchin has died. He wanted to do a transfer after losing his sight and mobility. Tabaha even brought him the equipment, but Grandpa died in his sleep. He was buried at the spot he had requested. Tomorrow marks the 4-year anniversary of Grandpa's funeral, which means I'm already 23. Everything is still the same. I tried leaving again, but no dice. I simply lose consciousness like before, and went to find that town for my dream. Is this the one from when we were laying down in a bed, or tried to lay down in a bed, you think?
Yeah, it's gotta be that.
I'm curious. Perhaps I'll risk it and do a transfer. Grandpa's got no use for his help these days, but I might. If I get lucky, I'll wake up in a new body in Ulaanbaatar. Too bad the genometer won't show my number. I know how dangerous it is. Okay, I don't know how much more of this there is. Maybe... Okay, I'll just do the last part. When I look up at the poster over my bed, for some reason I remember my toys. When I was a kid, maybe 5 or so, I had a favorite toy, an odd little space case. Ongots had found it somewhere and brought it to me. And I saw dark squirrels in the field, got scared, and stashed toys away for some reason. To make sure I didn't forget the hiding place, I came up with a clue. Come out of the yurt, Gare, and fly straight as the crow. On a rock with a snag, look for an arrow. A sorrowful tree will show you the way. A box in the sand will a mystery betray. But now I can't find it. Okay. Your child's stash is hidden. Come out and fly straight as the crow. Which way is the... Back in Mongolia we go. I think it's this.
Yeah.
Oh no, they're going that way.
I think the first clue there is like if you turn to the right a little bit more, that rock with the tree kind of coming off of it, that's your first arrow.
Is it?
Took me, I was wandering around a lot
okay,
earlier when I was
on
playing.
a rock with a snag. Look for an arrow.
And see, if you go on the left side.
Oh, left side?
Yeah. Right. See, there you go.
Ah, okay. It was so kind of our future selves. Okay. Yeah, I was trying to be clever and like look at where all the birds were going, and then I just sort of crossed the sky. Okay, so we'll go this way. The sad tree. Is this a sad tree? Maybe it's a sad tree. Ah,
Oh yeah, there we go.
It's so nice of us to...
And then there we have a little sand patch.
Look at these cool loops.
Yeah, that's another thing that was like, that's very funny. Like, it is very Mongolian to have these really long stretches of empty landscape with just power lines going through it. It's like a common figure in Mongolian film to have a long, like the longness of a journey be aesthetically represented by one or two people on horseback following power lines, and that highlights how far you have to go, that you're not even going to stay in the same province or whatever, but because the power lines are the only thing that go all around the country. Roads don't. I mean, there are only a handful of roads outside the capital city that are paved and maintained, but the power lines are. And so I like that they did that. That's very iconically Mongolian, and they add this like sci-fi element of their design.
Right.
That's good Mongol futurism.
Okay, here we go. Our favorite toy. What was our... Oh my goodness. Was this our favorite toy? I don't know. This little duck? Oh, Can I sit on this rock? Okay, it's just... I'll put it away. I like how the music changed. I've no need for this. I can't put it in my inventory. That's so sad. Okay, let's... Oh, okay, mystery part. A little case. Yeah. Can I put this in my inventory? No space. Okay, let's... Your favorite toy as a child was a processing device. Not this little duck? It was just... There are two more parts. Use them to repair the young android woman. She may provide valuable information. Okay, I'm just gonna drop some stuff. Okay, what do I not need? I don't need this paper. Sorry, I'm littering. That's like the most Mongolian environmental, just like throwing paper on the ground. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna throw the salt over here too. Can't believe that I won't let us pick this up. I'm just gonna carry it back with me to be like ornery. Okay, once we get back, I think once we fix the android lady, we can take a short break. I can't believe they wouldn't let us add this little cute toy. How is our favorite toy a processing device?
I know. What kind of games was he playing?
Wait, no, I didn't even press anything.
What's happened to my cup? That's what happened to my cup.
I didn't press it.
You took it outside of its zone.
Oh, wait.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay, we're gonna leave it there. We're not gonna do anything else.
The only thing to ever stay on the table.
Okay. Connect the processor. Okay, I'll just gently drop it on the ground. Okay, processor in head or chest?
I think that one goes in the head, but there's one already in there you have to pop out.
Okay. There's like no gentle way to like set anything down. Have to go back to work. Thanks so much for being here, Tulip. Really appreciate you being here. Thanks for stopping in. Okay, that one goes in the head. I think this was her head piece. Find and connect the synchronizer. The toy is more powerful than game physics, right?
Yeah, and I think they're both attached to this thing.
Okay. Pick you up.
So that's one of them. There's, yeah.
Okay, one of you is a... Let's try this. This going? Oh, nope. switch her on. Oh my goodness.
Oh, we did it.
We did it. This is not even remotely close to like, I don't know how far we are through the game.
This is like, she then talks for
forever.
But that, like, I think that starts the first quest.
Okay.
Or that starts the game quest of the game. Is once you finish talking to her, then you go to the amusement park to get the parts to repair her.
Okay, so we won't do all of that. Can I get out of the conversation, or am I trapped here? I might be trapped. Oh no. I might be trapped, Kip. I don't think I can get out of talking to her. I can't get out.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna hide.
Hey.
Oh, I love that it's voice acted.
Can you hear me?
Where am I?
Okay. Well, all right, for everyone in chat, this is where Kip and I, we just got to the good part. Kip and I are going to take our 5-minute break, and then we'll come back, and we're going to have a conversation where we get to learn more about Kip's work, and then we'll go from there. So thanks for sticking with us. We'll see you in just a little bit, and we'll see you very soon. I'm going to take us to our break screen. All right, we'll be right back. Hi everyone, we're back from our break. We are here today with Kip Hutchins, celebrating an early celebration of Naadam, and also chatting about all things Mongolia, animals, humans, environment, robots, all the good stuff. Okay, Kip, what were your thoughts on Cradle from that little bit that we played? I know you've played a little bit, not too much more past the point where we stopped, but what are your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, so I was actually surprised that it was kind of good.
Is it worst bad, best worst game you played?
Yeah, like it is annoying to play. I will say that, but yeah, it was good. Like it had good Mongolia representation, and it represented a Mongolia that you don't usually see. Like I said earlier, like in the rare case that Mongolia is represented. And it's not just like as monsters or something, but as real people. Even then, it's still going to be medieval, right? It's going to be 13th century. That's the lens that the West imagines Mongolia through, by and large. And that is basically a fear-based lens that I think reproduces a really peculiar kind of racism that even otherwise really progressive people kind of give themselves a break on in a weird way. Like, the Colbert Report had a whole thing about how Mongolia didn't deserve Cosmopolitan magazine, right? It's a totally liberal position at the time to allow yourself that one racism. And so I think representations that don't operate from a place of fear or imperial nostalgia are really useful. And the Mongolia that this imagines, or that it moves into the future, is a 20th and a 21st century Mongolia that's very recognizable to me. It looked like a really normal herder's house. I almost, playing it myself, kind of felt a little bit like cozy in a way. Yeah, all right, I'm back in,
This is your cozy game.
Yeah. Back in so-and-so's gear with his robot. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. Like, if I have to get to the point with a game where I'm nitpicking where the water for the pot comes from, that's good Mongolia representation, by and large. And yeah, I mean, I like that kind of thing. When I was a kid, I really liked the Myst series, so that was very tight. It worked really well into the kind of the ludology of, you wake up in a ger, you have to produce food, you have to like put together a meal, you have to find where things are, you have to go out into the steppe. I think it went with this well, and I grounded it in a way. Even though you're outside of a defunct amusement park in the middle of the eastern steppe.
Yeah, we didn't even get to go there. It still
felt grounded. I'll have to go back.
I know. Well, even though I think people in the stream, we only sort of saw it from a distance, it kind of reminded me when I first saw it of the National Amusement Park in in Ulaanbaatar in the capital of Mongolia, just like just kind of like south of everything. Like I remember seeing, I don't know, again, like I'm just sort of blown away by how accurate so much of this game was. Like, you know, from those family photos, those odd family photos of people we don't know, but are certainly probably real people, you know, somewhere. Like,
Yeah.
really, really fascinated. So, I'm glad that we played this, and I hope we get to return to this in the future because I really want to see where this takes us. But Kip, I have a question for you. I have lots of questions for you, actually. And for people in the chat, don't be shy about asking Kip your questions. We already have one question. Thank you so much, Ostrich. I was going to say, don't be shy about asking questions because this is the perfect time to do so. So before I get to your question, Ostrich, I'm going to ask what I ask all of our first-time guests, which is sort of your origin story. So I would love to know, how, you know, have you always wanted to be an anthropologist? Like sort of what took you down that field? And then also what got you into Mongolian studies and, you know, specifically, you know, like your interests in music, animals, and the environment. So maybe like talking about anthro and Mongolian studies.
Yeah, it all kind of came together. So I grew up in a town in rural southern Appalachia, Todd. The community's so friendly, they call it by its first name. And in the place and time where I grew up, like storyteller was a feasible job. I knew multiple adults whose career was just telling stories, like jack tales and, you know, folk tales and things like that. And so I really like that. I like storytelling as a way of engaging with people, and I really like the kind of social element of keeping a story going across multiple generations. So when I went to college, I went to the only college that I knew of where I knew you could major in folklore, not knowing at the time that did not mean you got a degree in becoming a professional storyteller, right? As like I was 16. So I just was like, well, I'll get my storytelling degree and I'll just come back home and be a professional storyteller. And then when I got to college, I found out that folklore as a discipline is kind of the ethnographic humanity. It's the field of the study of artistic communication that requires you to spend a long time doing in-person qualitative studies with practitioners. And I like that a lot. I took to that. And obviously, like, telling stories is not a completely dead career, but I don't know anybody my age who has that job, so I had to kind of pivot. That's kind of how I got into the ethnographic part of things. And this was like my big move away from my hometown to Indiana University, where I really like languages, but I hadn't had that much access to languages outside of like French, which my family speaks at home. So when I went to IU, I was like, what's the craziest language that they have on offer? And I saw that they taught Mongolian, not realizing that it was the only school in the United States that taught it at the time. And my dad, who loves nomad music across the board, he loves Tuareg music, he loves like Bajau folk music, any kind of nomadic thing he's really into. He's like worked with Tamashek authors for a lot of his life, so he has a lot of close Tuareg friends. Has all these Hun Hertu tapes. And he was like, if you learn Mongolian, you can translate my Hun Hertu tapes. And again, not realizing, it took me like 10 years to figure out that Tuvan and Mongolian are not related languages. And that I could not translate the tapes at all. I learned like fluent Mongolian, and then I was like, oh, right, these are like more distantly related than English and Farsi. So that was a big letdown to my dad. But I just told him all those songs are about horses anyway. I think we can say that without any fear of error. But so I started taking Mongolian just for fun, basically. And I found that coming from a really like small, rural, fiddle and group singing oriented home environment, that I actually kind of fit in and got along with the Mongolian community in Bloomington, which is quite large, actually. for a smaller city in the Midwest. I found that easier to acclimate to than the rest of the community in Indiana. And once I had spent a little bit of time learning Mongolian, I realized that this is a part of the world that Western people don't understand that well. And so I started asking people in Mongolia like what I could do, what they thought was important for a Western person who is interested in Mongolia or who has Mongolian friends. And all my teachers and all my friends and everybody that I felt like I owed something to, who took care of me when I went to Mongolia and things like that, said, we really need more people who are writing about Mongolia and presenting a side of Mongolian culture and history that's a little bit more nuanced in the kind of Western world. And when I started doing research and writing on Mongolia, I started working with fiddle players because that's the community that I knew really well in the United States. My family are bluegrass musicians. And so that kind of unfolded from there. So I would ask musicians, like, what do you think is important to know about Mongolian music? And they would say, well, if you really want to write about Mongolian music, then you need to understand nomadism. And if you want to understand nomadism, you really have to get to know some horses and some cattle and understand the relationships that people craft with these animals musically. And that's really where animals came into the fold. I was sort of following at each step. I just kind of ask people what they think I should be doing, and I just do it. It's a very easy chain of circumstances if I just keep doing whatever the last person told me to do.
I like that. I forgot to ask if you had your horsehead fiddle nearby to show people, and it's okay if you don't, just for people who have never seen one. So my apologies on that, unless you want to go grab it.
we're right in the middle of a move, so all my instruments are locked away. But I was also surprised that they didn't have one in the gear, because a Mongolian household would always have a horsehead fiddle in the north side of the gear or the northeast side, west side of the gear. But yeah, I don't have it. That's have
okay.
it handy.
I forgive you. I think if anyone wants to see, I think you can just Google Kip or Google horsehead fiddle, and you can.
That's true. I almost always appear in pictures with a fiddle in my hand. The iconic horsehead peg carving spends a lot of time right here next to my head in pictures.
But I love that. So I love that sort of chain of what sort of took you down that path, and sort of storytelling has always sort of been at that center of it seems. I'm going to ask you that question really quickly. So Ostrich asks, are there other accurate, more current representations of Mongolia in media that you would like to recommend?
That's a good question. Not really.
That's right.
There's not that many. So they're bits. You can get bits and pieces from different places. Ironically, the new Wheel of Time TV series is super Mongolian. Somebody must have gone to Mongolia when they were they're all wearing 13th century style Mongolian tunics, the everyday wear. That's all Mongolian. They do throat singing at a funeral. Huh. That was but it's they're not trying to represent Mongolia. There's a lot of things like that where people will borrow heavily from Mongolian culture or aesthetics or music. But you would never know that that's what they're doing because it's not signposted. Like I mentioned earlier with Queen Amidala, she's not only is she exactly dressed like a Mongolian queen and given a basically Mongolian name, she also carries out an extremely Mongolian plot line of a young princess who is thrust into a position of power and has to take over the functioning of an empire while also looking after her young ward, her young male ward. That's what happens to Hutulun and Anu and Mondukai and every queen. So there's a lot of stuff like that where people will pick out from Mongolian culture. And obviously Mongolia has its own representations that of itself that are varying degrees of accurate and not accurate. But Mongolia does produce movies about itself, that some of which come out in the West or worked with Western auteurs. Peter Brosens works with Byamba Sakhya, who's a Mongolian director, a lot. And they have a movie trilogy that is available in the West. Did see a Western release. I bought a copy of one of these movies at a Blockbuster that was closing down in Boone, North Carolina, called the Mongolia Trilogy. So those movies are called State of Dogs is one. Another one is called Poets of Mongolia, which is a documentary about Mongolia in the 1990s. It's one of my favorite films to show in class. Every Oberlin student has seen Poets of Mongolia like 30 times at this point. And then the third one is called Haduk, and that is a dark magical realist film that is very easy to find in the West. And it also shows a kind of apocalyptic Mongolia. And there's also a plague actually in it, funnily enough. This movie's like from 2010, I want to say, or 2008, maybe. But it represents Mongolian-ness in a way that I find really compelling and easy to read for a Western audience. It's not like really acrolectal if you have seen. It's like at the cultural specificity level of like a Tarkovsky or Kurosawa. Kind of like there's some cultural specificity, but you get the sense of what they're doing every step along the way. Those are the go-tos that I would show like in a class, for example, to be like, this is a Mongolian artist's representation of like Mongolian-ness in terms of a TV or movie. Video games, like, super not really. Of like never seen again. Maybe this one gets as close as any that I've seen of like representing the aesthetics of Mongolia in like a accurate way. It's a very like expansive kind of country in a way that draws you into an aesthetic space of peace and a slow kind of pace that's reflected well, I think, in the ludology of this game, but not in a lot of others.
Well, and Kip, you said, I'm sure they're not watching now, but maybe they will in the future. For anyone looking to create video games or tabletop role-playing games, you would be more than happy to consult for them. And you did, in fact, reach out to, did you say it was Warhammer? Who is it that you reached out to and said?
There's a game called Conquest that they want to do a Mongolian one.
Yeah.
I've been trying to get them on board for a cultural consultant. I'm happy to culturally consult for something, or I'm also really happy to connect anybody who's working on something like that with people in Mongolia who are doing similar stuff, doing similar arts, or who just would be good cultural consultants to kind of help figure out like, okay, this is, if this representation is offensive or if this representation is accurate. And yeah, I know a lot of people that I could easily connect somebody with. And like, this is one of those things where like Mongolian people, generally speaking, like the people that I've worked with, the people I've talked to, do want there to be more representations of Mongolia, and not even necessarily just positive ones, but ones that are a little bit more nuanced than simply representing Mongolians as this kind of like force or this war machine or this body of monsters, just in a nuanced way. And like there are Mongolian representations that have been so radically transformed into a hating Mongolia piece that I think people are really nervous and would be happy to collaborate or at least consult on. Like Mulan. Historically, Mulan is a Mongolian princess, right? That's a Mongolian folktale. Mulan, as a historical figure, was a Ruran princess, Mongolic-speaking nomadic community. Those are Mongolian, like princess stories, princess warrior stories is more a Mongolian kind of story than it is anything else. Like that's one of the most common kinds of Mongolian epic stories. And her enemies were the Topgoch, which were another nomadic Mongolic-speaking group. And that's really been turned in the West into a story where Mongols are monsters. And that's like really ironic. She was Mongolian. So I think like a lot of people would really be excited to help, not even, do a Pollyanna version, but like, here's what would happen and what wouldn't.
Mm-hmm. I also, yeah, I feel like sometimes, right, it's hard to generalize across like entire, countries and groups of people. I think one of my favorites is when people say, all Mongolians like love horses. And one of the people, one of my best friends who, when she was at IU, she was scared of horses, like, so it's hard to make these like sweeping generalizations of, Mongolians or any group in media or otherwise. So I think, yeah, just remembering that, people are people and we're as individuals we can get. And sometimes you can make statements and sometimes you just have to take them with a grain of salt for sure.
Yeah, and like just sort of I like this game kind of because the character that you play, being that kind of like classical JRPG, like amnesiac blank kind of character, at least so far, like doesn't come with a lot of stereotyping attached, right? He's just doing his thing. He's feeding his eagle.
Yeah, we'll see where this goes. I don't know how much time I have to finish the rest of it, but we'll keep each other posted on our progress, or we'll just have to stream again with each other and just see where this game takes us. So yeah, thanks. I think thanks for asking that, Ostrich. I appreciate that. Okay, Kip. So what are some of your favorite, I guess, memories or moments that have stood out to you just from your travels to Mongolia? Because you've been there a few times now. I think the last time you said was last year. Is that correct? So and it's changed over time too.
From 2010 to now, total, I've spent about 5 years living in Mongolia, like, in bits and pieces. Sometimes it's a month, sometimes it's like a 3-year stretch. And I've seen it change a lot. Like everywhere, it's really transformed over the past 15-ish years. And, Mongolia is a very like outdoors kind of place. Like if we saw in the game, right, like the traditional household, that's your whole house, right? It's that little room. And then the whole outdoors is like the rest of what you have to work with. So I've just, the things that really stick out in my memory are like really scenic vistas. I work a lot in the Gobi Desert. So the Gobi has all these like really striking rock formations, like the Flaming Cliffs, where it's like red and purple and white. There's the Shambhala is a real place, right? Like we talk about Shambhala as an idea of an exotic, like kind of Xanadu, although Xanadu is also a real place. It's also part of the Mongol Empire. Shambhala is a real place. It's in Mongolia. There's a monastery in southeastern Mongolia in the Gobi, in the middle of this big red volcanic field, where there are like petrified dinosaur bones just kind of in the ground in the desert, this petrified forest, like stumps of petrified trees out in the desert. And there's a monastery to a man named Danzan Rabja, they call the wild saint of the Gobi, who was a real person, and he was a Buddhist Nyingma red hat saint. And he was a famous botanist. He was gifted cherry blossoms by the emperor or the prince of Japan, under the idea that they would bloom once and then die in the harshness of the southeastern Gobi. But he bred them, the Danzan Rabja bred them in such a way that they bloom wildly throughout the Gobi every year in this like little shrubby Gobi version of a cherry blossom. So he's got a monastery there, and it's just really a different thing, right? To be in the desert at the monastery of this like wild saint who has all of these like rituals and things that you kind of go through with other people, and you're bonding with people that you never met before, will never see again in the case of extreme locations. Mongolia is also a place that like a lot of my best memories are sitting in someone's little ger and singing songs together. So like if somebody were to go to Mongolia, I would say like the number one thing you can do for yourself to have a good time is like learn one Mongolian song, even if it's just phonetically or just the first like maybe 7 words to get everybody started, and then singing along all together is a lot of fun. I've even acquired a taste for fermented horse milk. I really wish I was drinking some fermented horse milk right now.
It's a time.
Very acquired taste. But once you acquire it, it's hard to go back.
Favorite Mongolian folk songs?
Yeah. Well, there is, for Naadam, you have to start off Naadam with what's referred to as a Turin Ortendo, which is like a national or like a government long song. A long song is like really melismatic, extremely like vocally difficult style to sing. And this particular one is called Tumin Ech, which means the mother of 10,000 or the first of 10,000. And it's a song that's simultaneously about establishing a government that suits the needs of all of its people, and also being a winning racehorse, which makes it like that layer of the metaphor makes it really appropriate for opening up national celebration. I like that song a lot. I do a lot of work in Dondroev province, which is famous for producing basically Mongolia's version of Edith Piaf or Kulthum, whose name is Namjalin Norabanzad. And she was a long song singer, really beautiful singer. If I ever want to like listen to Mongolian music, that's like the place that I would probably start. Just in terms of the beauty of it. But I also like every province has a handful of traditional fiddle tunes that are meant to evoke the gaits and running speeds of horses, camels, and very rarely cattle. And those are all great. Every province has its own version of a song called Jonong Har. That's one of my favorite folk songs. Jonong Har is a famous horse from Mongolian folklore. And Jalamhar is kind of another sort of version of that. And because I do a lot of work in the Gobi, I like all the songs. So there's a song called Unchin Saran Botok, Orphaned White Camel Calf, that's about the plight of the baby camel when it's been rejected from its mother. And that's a very moving song as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, if you're like going to learn one, probably like a simple song like Mandachnar, the Rising Sun. I like that one too. It's an easy one to pull off.
If you had to teach one to people on stream right now, like when you said like, you know, what are like the first 7 words? Give us like the first like line or 2 of a song. I'm gonna challenge you.
Let's see.
Let's see if people on stream can learn this. I didn't warn you ahead of time. I was gonna.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to decide. Mandachnar is like Manda Jagaradaghnaran Shinegese, which that's like the first like kind of bar, and I think that's kind of easy. I think that's doable. Although if you don't have any words in front of you
right.
and you don't speak Mongolian, it's like very difficult. There's like none that you could do really. Or like the first one that I think I learned ever was probably this song called Arwan Tavnisar. No, the first one I learned was Babanzan, but like one of the first songs I learned was Arwan Tavnisar, which means full moon. And it's like comparing the ages of one's life to the phases of the moon. And like, I think it's a really easy song to remember, but it's actually a really physically difficult song for me to sing because it's really high. But that would be another one. It'd be like, Arawan Tavanema. So the first line doesn't have that many words, but you have to kind of work with the melody a little bit. You have to go up and down and all around. So it would be hard.
Yeah, I'm thinking of like one that pops to mind that I feel like a Mongolian teacher made everyone sing to is like the timbre, like the Shiger Shiger song.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Shiger 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 Ganeho.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one for learning counting. Goes through Arwan Khelche. Arwan Kherin Alkhan. Oh yeah. Asakamorani Alkhan Tawar Ganeho. Arwan Khelche Shikshirgen
There are no end
Like
of songs, is I guess what we're trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch that we had a karaoke thing recently where you were challenged to sing a song in a different language, and the one that I did for that was Denseiyu from the classic Mongolian Saholsundu, which is a kind of popular 20th century kind of, not exactly like a lounge singer genre, but a similar kind of crooner sort of sound, and that one's like Ayu Denseiyu kind of thing. There's no end. I mean, there's a kind of a breakup of folk songs between what are considered long songs and short songs. And the short songs, like those ones, like little folk songs, they have really similar melodies, and it can be really easy to like learn quite a few if you know just like a little bit of Mongolian, or at least know what the words you're singing are. And then long songs, like, you basically need professional training to be able to sing them. They're really vocally demanding, and they're called long songs because each individual syllable of a poetic text carries with it the possibility of an extremely long, extended melismatic improvisation. So you might have a singer do 3 minutes on only 6 words of text, and takes you into falsetto and really demanding style.
Mm-hmm. In chat, Inger Ostrich says, I feel like The Who has done a lot for bringing more visibility to Mongolian music. They do folk metal stuff, and they've been pretty popular for the last 8 years or so, but he has not seen them live yet. But they've been to the US a few times, right?
Yeah, they've done the biggest US tour of any Mongolian band ever. Like Tinker Cavalry did, like I want to say like a 20-city tour, which was the like really high end for a Mongolian band in the US. And then The Who came into like 56, which is unheard of for. I mean, they were going to like Mansfield, Ohio, and places, like really bringing Mongolia everywhere. That's a cool band. I used to share an office with. Yeah, I used to share an office with one of them. Actually, when a lot of them used to be flute teachers at the National Conservatory of Mongolia, and the space where I would do interviews with fiddle teachers after hours was like the auxiliary space that they would let professors and students use their other bands, use to practice their other bands. And one of the guys from the band would carve traditional Mongolian overtone flutes out of PVC pipe on the other side of the space heater for me while I was doing my interviews. And I didn't know that at first, but then I saw him in concert at the Stone Pony in New Jersey. And I was like, seeing him up close and like in real life, I was like, I know that dude. That dude's my office. A lot of them are flute players. This is actually like, so in the early 1970s, the Minister of Culture, Loroi Damba, was basically presented with this problem from the government that Mongolians were really into the Beatles. And that was forbidden during the socialist period. You couldn't bring the Beatles past the Iron Curtain, and Mongolia was really firmly past it. And Loroi Damba was basically like, instead of punishing people for liking rock music, let's just make Mongolian rock music. So he established Mongolia's first psychedelic state, the party's state psychedelic rock band, Soil Erden. And he did that by taking a bunch of lap zither teachers from the National Conservatory, giving them electric guitars and basses and a drum kit, and basically telling them like learn how to make psychedelic rock, but with themes that are sort of friendly to Mongolian socialism. So like family, how you take joy in your work as a herder, those kinds of things. And it's really good. You should definitely check out Soil Erden, SOYOL space ERDENE, their first album. It's really cool. And they did that again with a state funk band called Bayan Mongol, BAYAN. And so I know the dude who formed the Who, and I asked him about it, and he said, yeah, I just did the Lodai Damba plan. We needed a metal rock band. And so he got some of his former students together, and they worked on like how can you make Mongolian music more metally or more hard rock kind of. And he did the same thing. He got a bunch of flute teachers and two really good horse and fiddle players. Can we make this work? And they did. But there's a long history of bands doing that kind of thing when you crack it open.
Is it weird? I don't know if weird is the right word, because you know them sort of in their non-Who lives, or at least one of them, and then seeing them in their Who sort of like performative state, like just sort of seeing the two.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't think, I mean, since Genghis Khan, I don't think a Mongolian person has become that famous internationally. And I think that's for contemporary Mongolia, that's very new. Like figuring out what to do with an international superstar, especially like 6 of them all at once. And they've kind of had some rocky times with that, but I think they kind of settled into a comfortable space of being both popular at home and abroad.
Mm-hmm. Okay, this is I don't think I've asked you this, but so you mentioned that you're interested in, sort of Mongolia and Southern Appalachia. And I'm wondering if you can sort of talk about those two, because I think, as you said earlier, like you grew up in this community that when you realized when you went to IU and then maybe later on to Mongolia, there are a lot of similarities. So I'd just love to know more about your I've been asking a lot about Mongolia, so I want to ask you sort of about this other side of yourself, about sort of that, like that music and storytelling side.
Yeah, well, I like the fiddle music crossover. It's like really apparent. Like I've done like a couple of talks in the county where I grew up in, different places where I bring my fiddle and my Mongolian horsehead fiddle, and I play a couple tunes and I talk about it. And this like complex timbre, super double stoppy kind of music is really popular in both canons. In a way that when I play it back home, like old timers especially would be like, oh, this doesn't sound foreign, right? Which is like huge compliment.
Is that like the actual like accent or no?
Yeah, I mean, that's about right. And so there's that like kind of aspect in terms of like the way that the music sounds and the aesthetics that people prize, and the context of group singing as being like a way of passing the time that's like a little bit more common in both of these communities. But I also see these as two communities that basically get monsterfied a lot, right? That my experience growing up in rural Southern Appalachia and like throughout my life has been seeing people be turned into monsters. Like the history of American horror films is like at least 30% like cannibal hillbilly, like freak as an archetype, like Night of the Hunter, right? Like the first American horror films about an evil hillbilly freak, right? Like, so it kind of goes from there. Mongolia is a place that was monsterfied by J.R.R. Tolkien. He referred to the orcs as being Mongolian of appearance and disposition, as like that's one of the most enduring kind of aspects of Tolkien's over in the Western imagination, is monstrification and this fear of the horde, right? This fear of the Mongols that appears in a variety of different ways. And I think that there is a lot of space for potential solidarity, and I think that there's a lot of space for dignity in people identifying the ways in which they've shared this kind of position of being identified as an existential threat, right? Or a kind of monstrous being. and that if we kind of cut out the middleman a little bit, there's some kind of fun to be had in connecting these groups together. And this is like not like all happening in my imagination. Like Pigeon Forge, where Dollywood is, has a relatively large temporary Mongolian community. A lot of like the people who work there for a summer or 2 summers come from Mongolia. There's a picture I saw. One of my Mongolian Facebook friends posted this picture when the Gatlinburg fires were happening, like in 2015, of him and 2 of his friends holding a big Mongolian flag over the sort of this raging blaze, like not that far away from my hometown. And I just thought that was like really, small world kind of situation, because they're celebrating the smoke having come from Ulaanbaatar, which is the like second smoggiest city in the world, right? There's these kind of connections. If one were to watch Hadak, Khadak, the film I suggested earlier, you would see or Poets of Mongolia is also like this, a lens of Mongolia that's understood through coal and the human toll of coal, and that's an Appalachian story on our end as well. I know there's just like a lot of these overlaps, and ultimately what it boils down to is these are both sacrifice zones, which is to say these are places where more powerful entities have determined that this area should face the brunt of climate change and poverty and widespread health disparities, but not reap the rewards of 21st century wealth generation. So when coal comes from Mongolia and goes to China, or a pipeline goes from China to Russia and it takes like a third of Mongolia to go through it, or when uranium or molybdenum or copper comes from Mongolia and no wealth goes back into the country, that's a story that I really recognize, of coal coming from eastern Kentucky and wealth going up north. These are some of the relations that like they don't always play out at the like fiddle convention level, but they don't necessarily. And now like my dream is to just bring fiddlers back and forth, or bring a banjo player and a topshore player like kind of back and forth. And this is kind of like love of the mountains is a pervasive element in Mongolian culture, even in non-mountainous places like Donloev or in the eastern Gobi, and obviously a big part of Appalachian as well.
I think sometimes we're reminded that this is both a small world, maybe not also, it's both a large world and a small world at the same time. So
yeah,
definitely see that play out. Also, especially when you're in Mongolia and you're like, you realize this person knows this person who knows, right?
Yeah.
It's just like everyone kind of knows someone. Like you're never that far apart really in the world and in there.
Yeah, if there's something that like at a cultural level, Mongolian people just tend to be better than Americans at in a practiced way, and like we value this culturally and we also practice it, and like many people here are very good at it. It's definitely networking.
Yeah. Nobody
knows somebody who knows somebody like in the US in like quite that same way. Like you and it's like not just by happenstance. Like there are smaller communities that are less tightly knit, right, than Mongolians worldwide, but they're just really good at it. I mean, very good networkers.
So I'm really sad because I feel like, we could just talk for the next few hours. I think that'd be very easy to do. But I feel like out of respect for your time, because I know it's getting a little bit late where you are, I'm going to ask just a few more questions. And then again, if anyone else in the chat has more questions for Kip, this is the time to ask them. But Kip, top 3 places or things to do in Mongolia. Doesn't have to be touristy. Could just be like, places or things you would like to shout out.
Yeah, things. So like I'm a huge Gobi fan, and like obviously it's going to be outdoorsy. Like if you want to go to Mongolia, you're going to be doing outdoorsy stuff. And I'm like, I'm fat and I have a bad ankle, so I'm not saying you need to be like hiking and doing athleticism, but you take in the great outdoors. in Dongguo province in Middle Gobi, where I do a lot of work, there are obviously a lot of, like I said, the big stone features. The big one is Ich Gazarin Chulo, which is usually referred to that in English as well. It means big stone place, basically. And it's like, I would say like up there in terms of like world wonder level natural features. And you can just go there. It's like really easy to get to. Another place that I don't do work in, so I haven't gone there that often, but I find really beautiful and it's really striking for somebody who works in the Gobi a lot, is Lake Hope Skull, which is mentioned in the game. Lake Hope Skull is a massive freshwater lake. It's kind of a sister lake to Lake Baikal, which Mongolian word meaning nature. Baikal is also, that's part of Buryatia. But Lake Hope Skull is in the Siberian part, right? Siberia goes into the north of Mongolia. And so if you had like 3 weeks or something and you bopped from one to the other and you just saw the stark difference between the Gobi, the desert part of the Gobi, and this like really lush lake Siberian forest area, that's pretty striking. Also, in Hope School, they have a yak beauty pageant and yak races. The same yak won several years in a row, and so people started complaining that it was fixed. But I think that there's more parity now. So Hope School, it's another classic one. It's a toss-up for me from two other ones. Near the capital city, like really close, like a 30-minute car ride, is a national park called Hostai National Park. And in Hostai National Park, there has been this successful rehabilitation program of the world's only extant, truly wild horses, right? Most wild horses, like the kinds you find on the Outer Banks in North Carolina, are actually feral horses, right? They're domesticated horses that then left domestication maybe generations ago, but are truly wild. There's this horse called the Przewalski's horse, or the Tach in Mongolian. They look like the horses from those French cave paintings, right? They're really small. They have this distinctive like black heel stripe, and they went functionally extinct in the wild throughout the 20th century because of intensive European zoo campaigns where they would take breeding mares out of herds, thinking that the mares would not matter and that they would just have another breeding mare in the herd, not realizing that horse herds, like human communities, depend on their relationships. And so they started to fall apart and die out. But they've been successfully reintroduced into the wild and rehabilitated. And you can see them, and it's pretty unique. The only other place in the wild where you can find these horses is in the Chernobyl exclusion zone, because there were a bunch in a Ukrainian zoo that were released there to see what would happen, and they're doing well as well. So that's another spot, nice, beautiful valley with some can't see it anywhere else fauna, and not just the tiny horses. There's also my favorite, the hudur, the musk deer, which is a little tiny deer with vampire fangs that it uses to dig up roots and tubers. So you look up the musk deer too. Those would be like the three places. Like if I had a friend coming to Mongolia, I would take them to one of those three spots. I would probably do Hostai and another spot. I know a lot of people like Western Mongolia, and it's definitely like there is a Golden Eagle Festival in Western Mongolia where people show off their eagle hunting. So if that's the kind of thing you're interested in, take a trip out to Bayanulgi as well.
Make sure you dress warmly, because I got frostbite when I went there.
Yeah, no matter what, you're going to want to dress warmly. It was just snowing in Ulaanbaatar like 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
so
June, yeah.
You definitely want to have the option to dress warmly, no matter when or where you go in the country.
Those are all really good suggestions. Okay, Kip. This is a question I also like to ask all first-time guests. There is no right or wrong answer, and I also apologize because, again, knowing that it's very late where you are, so don't worry about feeling like you have to be like totally fluent. But what do the humanities mean to you?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I feel like it kind of goes back to how ironically I got into it in the first place with my misconception of what a folklore degree would be, which is that I do think that, like, I mean, we think about the word itself, right? Humanity. And these ways that we communicate with one another, the ways that we encode meaning and find openings for sharing that meaning, transforming it, passing it on to others, I think are really critical to our community welfare, generally speaking. And I think that if the pandemic showed us anything, it's how critical and how fragile, I think for a lot of people, at least in the United States, that community building has really become. And so when we think through like the humanities, the folklore angle on the humanities, for example, being like what they typically describe as artistic forms of communication writ broadly, those are opportunities. It's an opportunity for us to really dig into how we build those relationships and how we protect them and foster them in the future. And my research, I think about how people build and foster those relationships, not only with other people, but with animals and landscapes and spirits and things like that as well. And some of those things are only really possible through a humanistic lens, right? When a mother camel rejects her young and it effectively becomes orphaned, the way that people in the Gobi bring the baby back to the mothers to sing lullabies to them, that's not something that can be understood without a humanistic lens to really think through it. That's not something that can be understood independent of relationality and affect, emotion, tradition, culture, heritage, and kinship. And that all kind of comes together, I guess, if I were to sort of unpack the word humanities and then try to repack it, that would be the things that come out.
I appreciate you bringing, animals somehow into a question about the humanities and humanity. So that's perfect.
Yeah, more than humanities.
Right. All right, 2 more questions for you. The first one, before it leaves my mind, I feel like it is just about to leave my mind. Any fun upcoming projects or things you'd like to tell us about, whether it's things that you're working on, I don't know, publishing or writing or researching?
Yeah, I just finished writing a manuscript, a draft of a book that I sent off to the publisher, and it's being peer reviewed right now. So who knows how long that will be out? But that's a book about my primary research, which is how people use music and cultural heritage and their ways of thinking past climate apocalypse and past kind of like the doomed sort of sentiment that a lot of people who have been experiencing the deleterious effects of climate change for a long time and planning into a future that is that's more than human. It's multi-species. It's a little bit gentler in terms of human, non-human relations. And, there's chapters in there about the rehabilitation of the wild Przewalski's horse. There's chapters in there about Mongol futurism and Mongolian people using Mongolian culture and aesthetics in this sci-fi kind of imaginative kind of way and things like that. But I can't tell you how long it will be because I have no idea how long, peer review could take a little or a lot. But it's coming down the pipe, probably sometime in 2025, potentially under the title A Song for the Horses. And I have a couple of other things that I sort of am formulating. There's a magical realist novel that's really popular in Mongolia that I've been working on a translation for a long time. And I think we're getting kind of close to getting a publisher on board for that. So that would be, that's Bogan Tomic, which is typically translated as A Shaman's Tale, but will probably be published under the title Field Guide to the Hidden Worlds, about a disaffected listicle writer from Ulaanbaatar who goes to Lake Baikal to reinvigorate his shamanic heritage, and shenanigans ensue. But that's a really popular novel, and we've been trying to find a publisher for translation, me and my wife Jessica Piscata. Other than that, I mean, it waits to be seen in terms of what will come out.
We'll cross our fingers for that awesome tabletop role-playing consultant position.
Oh yeah, I'm now that I have a little bit of time off in the summer, I'm emailing everybody like, hey, do you need to be connected with an artist from Mongolia?
All right, last question. Fun question. If you could create a video game or a game, could be a board game, whatever, of your own, what would it be about?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, video game. Man, I'm an old timer. Like, I'm just like, I like old and misbegotten things that are no longer popular. So like an isometric CRPG in the style of like, you know, original Baldur's Gate or like Planescape Torment that had like a good representation of Mongolia, North Asia, like folklore mythology kind of tied in there. That would be tight. That's more a game I would like to play. I'm not sure if I would do a good job making it, but I would hire plenty of consultants.
When you win the lottery, you know, in addition to all the other cool things like, you know, like buy cool food or like travel, make that game.
Yeah, it's on the list. Or maybe somebody else will make it for me.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Kip, so much for spending your evening with me, and the rest of chat for being here. I think I had a lot of fun. That was a really cool game. Again, I could have spent like, you know, the rest of the evening playing it because I do want to find out what happens to the mystery robot lady in our Gare. I just a million questions about the game. And again, just Kip, I always enjoy chatting with you, and I would love to have you back on sometime. You know, whether it's with this game or a different one, but I think it'd be a lot of fun to just, you know, learn more about what you do and chat about more stuff. And Bunny, thanks for the comment. They write, "You all rock." That was very informative and fun. I really appreciate that. So again, for people who are not familiar with our channel, if you're new here, this was a program of Nevada Humanities, which is our state's council partner for the National Endowment for the Humanities. We do a lot of in-person programs as well as online programs. You can find them on our website and social media, nevadahumanities.org. We're probably anywhere except for TikTok. I don't think we're on TikTok. I sort of refuse to do a TikTok for our organization, but you can find us most other places. If you would like, we do have a survey that you can take. I'll drop that in our chat. If you just have ideas for other games or guests you'd like us to do in the future on this channel, we do put our past streams, the majority of them on YouTube. So for people who are watching this, whether it's now or in the future, this will probably be on YouTube at some point. And yeah, I would just love to, you know, keep streaming and chatting more about, you know, Mongolian transhumanism and animals and all the cool music things with you in the future, Kip. So don't be a stranger. Don't be a stranger too, as well as Kip. You can probably find him if you, again, just Google him, find all the videos, find his website, keep track of where his book is taking him. And yeah, I'm just excited to learn more.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This is a lot of fun. Again, I was surprised that the game was kind of good. That took me aback. But yeah, it was great. I'd be happy to come back on anytime. This is my famously, it's my favorite thing to talk about. So there's just like no end in sight. I've never ever run out of things to talk about with regards to Mongolian folklore and folk music world. So happy to, and thanks everyone for watching and for your questions and for your comments. Very good questions, all of which could go much deeper. Even there are people who are more knowledgeable than I am. So keep kind of looking. If you are interested in whatever I've got going on, I do have a website. It's called songsforhorses.com. And that connects, you know, to all my other stuff. So you can find my email there and pretty much on any platform. Again, other than TikTok, my handle is at Songs for Horses. So kind of get a sense of where I'm going with that when you look into. But yeah, this was a lot of fun.
All right, we'll see you next time, and have a wonderful rest of your evenings wherever you happen to be. And thanks again.